Hello and welcome to yesterday's Airlines. In this video we're going to be taking a look at one of the new jcwings releases that has just been out in the last month or two, and that is this beautiful Hong Kong trader Cathay Pacific Cargo 747-8 freighter in the interactive series line. And this one's from jcwings, though obviously many of them have been by Gemini. I haven't actually paid a great deal of attention to these interactive series models until now, and that's mainly because they just don't really fit my collection criteria. However, Cathay Pacific is well within it, and this is the first time that we've seen a Cathay release on this mold, so that's why I'm suddenly now getting into it. And I have to say that I'm super impressed. So I thought in this video, I won't do a full review because I've already done one of those at the actual website yesterdaysairlines.com, so check that out, and also check out my other channels, Instagram, Facebook, at Yesterday Airlines, so on and so forth, and subscribe to this one too, don't forget. But instead, I'll take a quick look around the actual model itself because it's good to show the interactive features, in hand and on video. And yeah, I'm quite impressed by the model. So let's get on with it. So I guess I really ought to start the video by giving some credit to geminijets. I don't give credit to Gemini very often. They don't tend to do a great deal, which I find particularly interesting or innovative. However, I have to say this interactive series of 747s is pretty exciting, though I also would question how much of that comes from Gemini and how much comes from jcwings, their manufacturing partner. Either way, I think that the interactive series is a really good idea, and it's one of many features and innovations which have come out of the jcwings factory and stable in recent years, along with things like the upturned winglets on the new 777-9, flaps down, obviously, the beluga with the opening door, and the A320 inserts for that beluga XL. I mean, so there's lots of really cool stuff happening at the jcwings factory, and their models are well worth checking out when they do eventually hit the market, obviously after often very long timescales. Anyway, this model is a jcwings edition, though you perhaps wouldn't know it from the packaging. If we just take out the model for a second and have a look at the box, you can see that it is very clearly stated as not jcwings, but it comes in the fairly diagnostic bright orange box, which JC uses for models that it doesn't want to admit it's primarily for licensing reasons. And as we all know, Cathay themselves are fairly litigious. The cool thing about these rather large unbranded boxes is that the models in them typically do come with a collector's card, and this one does too, which is quite cool. So if you like having a bit of a collector's card with the models, then these releases by JC, or EW as they call themselves in this orange guise, are cool. But that's really a very much a by the by. Obviously what I'm here to do and here to look at is the actual model itself. And when these interactive 747s came out in, I think, 2019, the first one was released, then there was a reasonable amount of criticism about the fit of the nose door. But you can see on this model that it's actually pretty sharp, and actually that's quite good and fairly tight fit for one of these models. To be honest, I don't actually have a huge amount of time for people complaining about that anyway, because why would you buy one of these models to display it with the cargo doors closed? As you can see, it is here on the port side of the aircraft. It doesn't make any sense when you can have the doors open and it looks so much cooler. So that's really what I want to look at with 747 in a second. Ooh. Of course, it does come off fairly easily. Now, the other thing to mention about these jcwings Gemini 747-8Fs is just around the mold itself. I mean, I think the interactive feature is really good, but there is some criticism of the mold itself in that the hump here, the hump shape on the 747-8F here is not great. Basically, the issue lies here in this portion, just here. The curve here is too abrupt. It should be more gentle, and I'd say that it should finish kind of at the end of that Sea of Pacific rather than near the Eye of Pacific. So it's not the right shape, and that means that some people prefer the Phoenix mold over this JC mold. But regardless of whether you do or don't, Phoenix don't offer an interactive series or anything approaching this, and to be honest, the Phoenix 7478 freighter has other issues. It's got quite an ugly wing join seam line here, unlike on this one, which is very tight. And it has the typical Phoenix huge gap between the tail and fuselage, which is much larger and much wider than the rudder width, which is shown correctly on this mold. So there are other issues here and there. But as you can see, the reason you're buying this is for interactive features. And if you're going to buy it for the interactive features, then why would you display it with the cargo door closed anyway? So it's kind of irrelevant, really, I think, how the model looks with it closed, because surely you're not going to display it that way. Now, one of the things about these interactive models that I've noticed is that sometimes it can be a pain to get the cargo doors in and out. As you saw on this one, this cargo door is quite loose, the main cargo door. And something that recommends the model nicely is how good the printing is, even across the join of this die-cast plastic element. But that main cargo door comes out quite nicely and isn't a problem, as you noticed earlier on when it fell out. I would say that the cargo doors on the other side of the aircraft, that's not quite the case. And in fact, they are a bit of a pain. I actually did have trouble with the smaller cargo door elements, which you can see here. And it took me a while to get this little white one out. So I'm not going to put those in again because it's a bit of a pain to get them out. I think that some of the releases actually do come with a little tool that helps you do that, but this one doesn't. So I'm just going to ignore those. And as you can see on this side, I have the cargo doors fitted in their up positions, which are nice and easy to add in and take out. They have a groove here, which means you can just withdraw the door and slot it back in quite nicely. And they fit nice and tightly and look, you know, really good, I think, on the model as a whole. So that's great. But of course, the star of this model is clearly going to be the two larger doors, the nose cargo door and that side cargo door. And you can see from the front that we've got quite an interesting shape here. There's not a lot of detail inside the actual fuselage, but I can forgive that. We've got two holes here for pins on the, the underside here. And that's where the nose cargo door will pin in. So if I find that component of the aircraft, you can see it is here. You can see that you've got the two pins just here, and these just slot very gently into that gap. Like so. And also similarly for the main cargo door, we replaced the element which I just had with another one of these open sections, which just slots very nicely into the space here. Let's do that correctly. Here we go. And you have the aircraft in its open interactive configuration, which I have to say I'm super impressed by. I really wasn't necessarily expecting them to like this model as much as I do, and I'm really pleased with the look and feel of this. And I think on any airport diorama, this model's going to really look excellent, especially if you've got some of the Phoenixmodels cargo sets to go with that. So you can see that, from any angle, it looks great with the four open doors, the two belly doors, the large side cargo door, and this nose door, which really makes the model look super interesting and makes it really stand out in a collection of non-interactive models. And in fact, I think, these JCWings models, when you've got a large fleet of models like I do, then it's good to have some models which really kind of pop out of the collection and the display. And the models which JC has been making like this, and like the open door Beluga XL and the flap up 777, the wing up, sorry, 777, they look really, really interesting and different to your standard models, and certainly add that extra level of interest and detail. So, I'm pretty excited by this model and the way this looks, and I have to say that it looks really good. I'll just put it on the stand, even though that also makes a very unrealistic position, just so you can get a slightly closer look without my fingers being in the way of how the model looks. And you can see that it looks great. So the question is, I guess, does the interactive features compensate for the fact that the hump shape is not accurate at the rear there? And for me, it does. You don't actually really notice the shape of the hump being wrong unless you're really paying attention for it. And I think that these interactive features of the model more than compensate for that one aspect of the mold which isn't great, especially when the Phoenix mold has other aspects which are inferior to the jcwings offering. So for me, yeah, I really like this release. It's a really attractive model and a really nicely done livery rendition too. So I think that these interactive 747s are getting really good. And obviously, Gemini has just released the first 747-400 with the interactive components as well. So that again is a super interesting release. Doesn't quite fit my criteria, and hopefully again JC will be producing some Cathay versions in the future which will be more fitting to the sort of model which I collect myself. Okay, so that's just a quick look around the model. As I say, not a full review, but overall, I think that this model, is really good, really nice. I really like the idea of the interactive layout. I think it'll work great on my cargo airport when I get that back up and running. And I think that in general, this sort of innovation in 400 scale is a good thing. Shows how well the scale is doing and responding to demand at the moment. So well done jcwings, and even well done geminijets for these interactive models. I think they're pretty good. Cool, well, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. See you later.